Hello, everybody. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. Hello, everyone. This is our first webinar of the year. Is it the first? I think it is. Gosh, where have we been? We've been busy. I hope you're all well. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know you can't quite see Ricky, but we have got an amazing guest on our webinar today. But a big welcome to everyone who's joining. Please let us know in the chat where you're joining from today. It's really nice to see where you all are from around the world. And hopefully we'll have some active chat going on today with some spicy questions for Ricky as we're talking about all things ROI, specifically lessons learned in the world of internal comms. Hello, Diane. Thank you for letting us know where you're from in Texas. Lovely that you're joining us today. From the Bahamas, Rashad, hello, how lovely. We've got Jennifer from Idaho, hello, Calgary, Canada, Colorado, hi everybody. The last webinar we had about 30 people from North Yorkshire in England. There was obviously a spike in engagement in that particular topic, but really nice to see where you're all joining us from today. Hello, my name is Georgie. I'm in the marketing team here at Blink. Lovely to see you all today. Oh, a wet Devon, very on brand. Thanks for sharing, Jess. I hope you're staying dry. We've got a little poll to get you started. Glad to see that everyone's feeling okay and great on our Wednesday hump day. Is that still a thing? Do we still say hump day? I think we do. The hump of the week, in case anybody needed clarification. But let's get into it. And this has been a really well signed up session, actually. It's clearly a very hot topic. I'm really excited we've got a special guest here today. But hopefully you're all with me and you can sort of mentally raise a hand when you think the world that we live in, and I know this as a marketeer, you're very passionate about what you're doing and somebody comes up to you, prove it, what's the ROI? Prove it, what's the ROI? I'm like, okay. And this is what we feel a lot as communicators, myself as a marketer, especially in internal comms. So it's really excited to sort of get into it today with Ricky specifically. And look, budgets are higher, scrutiny is even worse, pressure is rising. So I really hope today we're coming away with some real practical insights and top tips. You won't just spend an hour with us chatting. Hopefully there'll be some real golden nuggets in there. So, let's get going, shall we? But Ricky, formally a proper introduction. Should I let you introduce yourself? I feel like I should.
Yeah, why not? So afternoon, everyone, or morning, or good evening from wherever you're watching. My name is Ricky Sicklemore. I've been at Blink for 5 months. I'm an enterprise customer success manager here at Blink and look after a large proportion of our transportation customers. But prior to that, I did 24 years in the transport industry as a communications manager, amongst other roles. And I actually launched Blink at Stagecoach, where I was previously.
There we go. And so it's sort of going to be lessons from the other side, or lessons for me from the other side. But Ricky, is it the dark side or the light side?
The light side.
Oh, there we go. Heard it here first, everyone. Super. So Ricky, you're relatively new in the Blink world and all things webinars. Before we get into it, we like to have a bit of forced fun, humanize our speakers, dare I say. So I've set Ricky a task of drawing. And what have I asked you? Can you do a drawing of what is great ROI in internal comms? Absolutely. Not the easiest brief, I'll give him that. But Ricky, what have you come up with?
It was even harder trying to find pens and paper. That's what was the hardest thing. So this is what I've come up with.
Go up right against the camera, yeah.
So as you can see, hopefully. And basically, it's a little bit of a spoiler, this. Basically trying to say and showcase that you're not in it alone.
Okay.
So it's not just the communications team. It's all about involving other stakeholders and other parts of the business to really help your return on investment.
Right. And Ricky, thank you. Should we frame it? We should.
Yes.
I'll take that. We just had a few comments here about Ricky's mic. I just wanted to. It's probably just because I'm really loud, so we're going to go closer and be louder.
Okay, I'll be a lot louder. I'll kind of
louder.
I can't do any louder than that.
Is that any better, everybody? Can we hear Ricky? Say something.
Testing.
Let us know. No, Michael, say no. No louder. Okay. It's worse, actually. Okay. Why don't we swap microphones? Bear with everybody.
Is that better?
Okay, we will speak like this. Can you now hear us both? Awesome. Thank you for being so supportive. Thanks, everyone. Okay, a few mic issues. Hopefully you can all hear us. Oh, only the one mic works.
Well, we'll
That's
kind of
fine.
share the middle one
Yes.
then. Yeah.
I mean, aesthetically, this looks better, but hey ho. Ricky, thank you. I'll start with this mic. Let's just get her out of the way. The joy of a live session, everybody. Ricky, I wanted to start by learning why now? Why are we talking about this now? Why does this matter now? And I do feel if we rewind the clock 5 years, it was really like, this is such a nice to have, and people got and were happy to sign things off for this is a nice to have. Mm-hmm. But there's been a real shift, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm now going to pass the mic to you.
Yes, so absolutely. If I think of my time, so I launched it back at Stagecoach in 2018. The world was a different place. COVID hadn't hit. Money was probably more affluent in businesses and such like. And I think much more now it's a choice between this is nice and the prove it. And what's really driven that is tighter budgets, which means, as an internal comms professional, it's no longer about page views and page likes. It is all about, it's great that you do that, but actually where are my efficiencies that I can make by introducing something like that?
Thank you, Ricky. I'm so sorry, everybody. We're going to have to pass the mic. Thanks for your support. I want a quick poll as well while we are getting into this scene setter and this shift. Is what's the number one change that you're seeing for internal comms in your organization? So Amelia behind the scenes is launching a poll for us. I'd love to know whether that's in the poll or in the chats. What are you seeing? And some intel here. We do love these events, live events, because everyone's in the chat and voting. And as Catella said, sharing is caring, not just in the microphone department, but also in our stresses and pain points around ROI. So thank you. So Ricky, let's rewind a bit. We're here to learn about your experience in industry as well as now working across customers at Blink. So tell me a little bit about your time at Stagecoach, Arriva, and these are two very large transit organizations in Europe. What were you personally accountable for? Paint a picture. Let's hear a little bit about your role, your life, Ricky.
Absolutely. Not too much. Yeah. We've only got an hour. Absolutely. So my time at Stagecoach was 21 years, started on work experience when I was the age of 14, but that's not really relevant to this story. I did a number of roles, recruitment, HR, ended up in communications. I launched Stagecoach's first version of the intranet, which was called The Loop at the time. It didn't take off elsewhere other than in London. So I worked for the London operating company. And I then was seconded a number of years later into Stagecoach Group, who said, can you come and look at an alternative platform for us because our intranet is not working and actually we need a way in communicating with 26,000 staff. Hence, we came across Blink and that's a story in itself for 2018. After that, I then joined their Workday project. So we actually launched Workday at Stagecoach, which integrated with Blink and we utilized the functionality in there for Blink. And then I left Stagecoach, joined Arriva, where I was head of Workday support and introduced Blink at Arriva as well.
Gosh, so never a dull moment then, right? Absolutely. And I think, Ricky, I would love to know as well, 2 questions. Why did you not think the intranet worked outside of London? And secondly, is tell me about some of this scrutiny and pressure that you were getting when it wasn't working.
Absolutely. So I don't think it worked well outside of London because it was quite clunky. It was hard to use. You had to remember usernames and passwords. There was one part of the organization that decided to do a mail merge with all of their users, but they mail merged the wrong usernames with the wrong passwords. So as soon as 4,000 people tried to sign in, they couldn't because it was the wrong username and the wrong password. And lots of feedback was, you're doing it great in London and not elsewhere. And I think the pressures were just making sure, what is the value in it? So we at Stagecoach, when we came across Blink, we did a proof of concept to actually prove it, because me sitting in my ivory tower as an internal comms professional, I have the luxury of sitting behind a laptop and being communicated with by people walking past me. Drivers and engineers don't have that in a transport organisation. So we really wanted to make sure that the app worked for them, because ultimately they're the people that it's built for.
Definitely. Slight pause on the technical front. Is my microphone now working? Could somebody let me know? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Yes, Marco. Hurrah. This just looks better vibes. And Ricky, I adore you, but we were getting very close there. Thanks, gang. Thank you, everybody. Super. Ben, thank you. He sorted us out in the background here. Super. And everybody who's joining us today, are you joining us from internal comms? Are you sitting in, or were sitting in a similar world to Ricky and feeling that scrutiny of regions aren't performing or certain tools with certain employee groups aren't working? Would love to know if you've got any stories to tell or any pain points about where you are and your perspective. Please share. Sharing is caring. That will be our tagline for today. Thank you, Ricky. And what about, what were leadership really believing in? Like, were you feeling that you were going to, obviously you were doing proof and concepts and stuff and you were buying, but did they believe in the value of internal comms? Were they knowing and seeing the power of getting it right and what that could be? And or do you have to go on a bit of a bother campaign? My mum would say you need to go on a bother campaign.
I think it was a bit of both. If I think of both organisations, it was a bit of both. So one organisation absolutely had somebody who said, this is the problem we need to solve. This is how we're going to solve it. What resources do you need? Who do you need? And get on and do it. In the other organisation,
which is the dream, right?
Which is the dream. Absolutely. Get your key stakeholders involved early doors, and that helps no end. In another organisation, it was kind of 3 bites of the cherry to prove, here's what we're saying, here's some stats to back up what we're saying. And there were challenges of, oh, we don't believe you, go and have another go. So you'd go back again and you'd go back and we still don't believe you, have another go. So it really does depend on what kind of stakeholders you've got internally that helps you with this.
Right. And thank you, Erica, as well, and Sarah in the chat for sharing some intel in your organisations. It's really great to see everyone's been through similar struggles. And what are your leaders like? Do you have a leader that's saying, we get it, let's go for it? Or are you having someone saying, no, come back to me when you've done this, come back to me when you've proven this? It'd be great to know. And I think when you have those advocates, those champions, it doesn't make such a difference.
It really does.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really does.
Just reading the comments. Thanks everyone for getting involved. Also work in internal comms for transportation, aviation. I'm seeing low email open rates for frontline employees. I mean, absolutely. It's very difficult, isn't it? It's trying to step into the shoes of the front line. It's like, what is their experience? Are they going to be checking their email? No, but if that's the only platform we've got, how am I proving that this is the right thing to do?
Yeah,
absolutely. And I want to get into the term ROI. How do we feel about this? Do we get the shivers? Do we enjoy the term? Do we relish it? But what does it really mean? I do think that gets thrown around quite a lot. So I want to get into this, right? You ready? Okay.
Yeah.
Also, everybody, if you have got questions for Ricky today, there is an official Q&A section in the platform. So do let us know, and the spicier the better, to be honest. I've obviously got my prepared questions, but we will try and get the questions throughout and at the end. But there is a specific Q&A function just so we don't get lost in the chat there as well. So Ricky, leadership comes knocking, comes to ask about ROI. What are they actually looking for?
9 times out of 10, they might not know what they're looking for.
Okay. However, spicy answer number one.
You may not know, in all honesty. So you've kind of got to work yourself in and go, actually, what are you looking for? And have that real conversation with them.
So you're having that as a consultative conversation.
Absolutely, yeah. You've come to me and said, give me the ROI on this, but actually, what is it you're after? What is the real question you're after?
Trying to get to the bottom of
that. And I think from my experience of doing a number of these, because not only did I do it for the Blink platform, but I also did it for Workday at Stagecoach as well. You're looking at hard costs. So what are those tangible savings that you can make? In one organisation that I work for, we saved over £200,000 in payslip costs because we stopped printing them and sending them out every single week.
Yeah.
We turned them into digital payslips in Blink. Time and efficiency. So where are the manual efforts being done today that actually are tangible benefits, because you're reducing a manager's need to carry out that action?
Yeah. Toolbox
talks, for example, in an engineering environment. And also risk mitigation. And I think that's always one that we forget about. At one organisation I worked at, if you had something called a near miss, you'd have to find a health and safety form somewhere to report it. But actually, nobody would do that because you wouldn't go and ask for one.
Right.
So turning it into a digital form would really help.
And I think as well, balancing those super material costs versus the intangible ones can be challenging as well, right? When you can see a very material one being like, well, we'll save X amount on printing costs.
Yeah.
Great. And your CFO type, stakeholder would love that. And it's the intangible ones that are really difficult. I can prove that managers will be more efficient. Can you prove that? And I think it's even showing the cogs and you're working through it is super valuable as well. Yeah. And which metrics? I know we spoke through a few there, like sounded good internally, but like what did actually hold up in exec conversations? What got your execs excited when you started thinking about your metrics and your the things behind the infamous term ROI?
The one that didn't hold up is the vanity metrics. how many emails were opened today. They're not interested, execs, in that sort of thing. They're really interested in the financial reality. You know, what are my savings? So can we increase turnover, or not increase turnover? Obviously, that'd be a bad thing. But can we help our turnover statistics? Can we increase the number of safety reports that we're getting? But also making sure that the narrative is moved from a nice to have to a tool that actually prevents that liability for staff and the retention, and helps with that.
And I think, Ricky, it's like knowing all these use cases, because not always these execs aren't always going to know these use cases. So sometimes it's like a massive education piece on a lot of the pain points as well to be able. So you're doing all of that education as well as trying to prove the justification of needing an
Absolutely.
investment. Yeah.
You need to be that conduit between the boardroom and the front line, but also vice versa.
I agree. I'm just reading all the comments. There's lots coming through. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. This really makes these live events so much better when everyone feels like you're having a good time over there as well, because we can't hear from you. So thanks for contributing. Means a lot. And it seems like there's a lot of pain points, especially in organisations, whether it's deskless or desk-based workers, actually, in terms of getting that connectivity and proving those things as well. So let's get into the metrics a bit more and like what really matters. If you had 5 minutes with a CFO, what would you lead with? So it's like, Ricky, great, you want a new platform, go and sit in front of the CFO. Let's call her Lauren. What are you going to lead with?
Money numbers.
All money numbers.
All numbers, everything numerical. I think, ultimately they are holding the purse strings for this investment potentially. So I think it's looking at where are we firstly wasting money, because they will want to know where we're wasting money, because they'll want to be as cost efficient as possible. So back to our earlier point of printing costs, distribution of those materials as well. And it's always taking a step back and looking at the wider picture, because it's not just the cost of distributing the payslip, but it's the printers, it's the people you're paying to load the printers, it's the paper. So it's all of those additional costs that are all going to stack up and make the real saving.
And that's one use case of saving.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Newsletter printing and posting newsletters out, for example, but also then attrition costs, because ultimately that's going to affect the bottom line. So actually, if there are things that you can introduce that help your attrition and your turnover, ultimately it's going to be paying out less on new entrants and new hires.
Absolutely. And we've just put a poll out here. Which metric is hardest for you to defend today? And it looks like the behavioural change is coming out top, followed by a joint second with reach and business impact, which is really interesting. And I think those behavioural things, and like we will get into that a bit more, you can really start to tie those to a business metric. To when you get in front of that CFO, you haven't got the metrics less so that they care about, and more those business impact ones. Michael, will we get a recording of the session? Yes, you will. It will be available on demand. But don't leave us. We're having a great time. Super. So I want to know about defending and getting budget and sign off for these things. Maybe you're in the room and you're speaking about particular metrics, but maybe you're needing either to defend your budget. Maybe there is an existing line item for you all around, whether that's internal comms or an intranet or a digital workplace. Maybe you've already got budget and you need to defend it, or maybe that you're trying to get more budget. But like, what made it easier for you to present that case? And again, in the chat, and would love to know, have you all got a line item for investment in technology and internal comms? Is this something you're having to defend? Is this something you're having to build a business case for? Let me know where you're at on that journey as well. That'd be so good to know. But Ricky, what are your thoughts there?
So I think the easier things to defend are items such as tech adoption. So every organisation, both Stagecoach, Ariva, and the customers I support are not only looking at an internal comms platform, but they'll have a HR platform that they're providing. They'll probably have a scheduling system.
Benefits platform.
Exactly, absolutely everything.
How many systems can we all name that we have on the
in the chat, everybody?
Yeah.
So, to show an increase in adoption. So, for example, one of the customers, we introduced a link into Workday, and overnight that increased adoption of it and generated employee self-service, which was something that was never available previously. So it's showing that not only are you paying for an internal comm system, but you can increase the usage of the single sign-ons.
Existing tools,
But also it's then a decrease in other things. So because you're introducing it as a one-stop shop and an introduction through Blink as an example, you've then got a decrease in password resets. So because you're not having to constantly reset, I've forgotten my allocation password, or I've forgotten my HR password. Can you reset it? All of that has gone. So it's making sure that you add all of that into your business case, but then it's also your safety compliance, and safety is a huge thing, certainly across the transport industry. And I'm sure there's plenty of you out there that are thinking about it as well, but it's using things like mandatory reads to showcase, well, actually, previously, the manager would stand in the corner and go, I need to tell you about this, Georgie. It's really important. Do you understand? And you go, absolutely. But I've then got to do that 300 times to everybody that works
my
there.
team,
But you can use a tool like Blink where you just deploy it and you can track it and see quite easily. So you get your safety compliance in there as well.
Yeah, amazing. And I think taking yourself one click out of the day-to-day is so valuable, isn't it? Because it's thinking, what else do these people care about? And of course, organizations are spending huge amounts of money on technology, Workday platforms, other HRIS platforms. Say that after a few. Not that I've had a few. This could be multi-million-pound investment, and trying to showcase the success of those through great adoption and usage of a great intranet or internal comms platform is a really good idea to take that step back. And it's interesting to see in the chat if people are having to defend budgets or you're having to build business cases. It seems like there's a bit of a mix. So likewise, we would love to talk to you about that, because I feel we've done a lot of work in proving this value as part of your ultimate business case to CEO, CFO. Let's chat. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I love this sort of stuff, because I love, when you have a difficult CFO and they're like, this is going to be a difficult conversation. I'm like, okay, bring it on. So anyway, let's get back to it. Ricky, I want to know about, how did you know a tool that you've got, whether that was Blink or something else, was actually working day to day, and less so about, oh, look, 90% of people are using it because the frontline can access it and people are engaging. But like, what are you actually taking to the team, to your stakeholders, to be like, this is working?
I think it was, certainly if I think of our proof of concept that we did when I was at Stagecoach, we picked two polar opposites ends of the country in Liverpool and Plymouth. One was very, very engaged with the old intranet. One we'd just acquired from another organisation, so hadn't used it previously. And what really sold it for us, and I'll always remember him, Harry was his name, he put a video on of him playing the ukulele. You've probably heard the story. But literally, we did a proof of concept for 6 weeks, and he uploaded a video of him playing a ukulele, singing a song, and he was probably about 60 years old, and put it straight into the feed and got really, really good positive feedback in that. And that almost just created this huge buzz.
Did you ask Harry to do that?
We didn't. No, Harry did it on his own back overnight. And we came in the next morning and there was a video of Harry doing it. And I think it was really showcasing that behavioural change, because that's always the concern, is you bring in a new piece of technology and are employees and colleagues going to adopt it and adapt to it? And actually they did. Overnight it just rocketed, and it was almost the FOMO then of, when can this depot have it, when can this depot have it, when can this operating company have it? So that's when we really started to notice, because there is that excitement and buzz from senior leaders as well.
And interesting though, because I do think there's been occasions, and customers I've spoken to as well have been very nervous about opening up a tool like that for everyone to be able to communicate on. And there definitely is an example I've heard of, the comms team coming in one morning and somebody had posted on their main intranet, on their Blink, that their wife had passed away and how they were feeling. And it was this huge long feed post, and the comms team thought, the post had been made at 2:00 in the morning, and they thought, oh my gosh, what should we do about this? Oh, this is appropriate. And within minutes of obviously people starting their shifts or their work day, there was just this huge outpouring of love and support. And I remember speaking to the head of comms, and he just thought, oh my gosh, actually, this was a lifeline that this man decided to put out. And this just shows the nature of this organization, that people really want to support each other. But likewise, when people do post more negative things, would you have known about that if you didn't have this tool or this platform? So even taking those specific use cases of, we've got a real sentiment problem here, so we're going to have to launch additional investments or initiatives here, as well as all the good stuff like Harry and his ukulele. Not all organizations have got musical wizards that want to post necessarily, but really interesting, Ricky. Thank you for sharing that as well. Okay, so what about mistakes, horror stories? When we were preparing for this, I was like, Ricky, we got to share some horror stories. It can't all be everything's rosy and perfect. And I would love for you all to contribute. Surely we've all got horror stories. I absolutely do. But let's get into some of the most common mistakes that we see, that we trip over. Maybe it's when building business cases, maybe it's when executives push back and we think, So Ricky, how do you take the next step in terms of turning ROI into a business case? Because that also can be a massive hurdle. If you don't articulate that well and strong enough, you've lost your audience, you've lost your case, you've lost your budget line, whatever.
Absolutely. And first impressions count as well, because you go once and they go no, not only do you feel disheartened, they will also question your credibility sometimes, which is not always good. I think, like I've alluded to already, it's key to talk to stakeholders. So get as many people. You might see it as an internal comms initiative that you want to launch a new internal comms platform, but actually, make sure that you're getting representatives from, if I think of a transport organisation, engineering, operations, health and safety, for example.
Oh, nice little steering committee.
A little steering committee together and go, actually, ultimately this could solve all problems with examples that I've already given today. How can you help me? What specific area would you like it to focus on? Because then that helps to then build it. But then also spend a day in the frontline workers' shoes. I can't stress enough how valuable it was for me to spend time at our Gilmoss depot and our Plymouth depots just watch what they do, spend a day in their shoes, look at their pain points, because actually, people in the boardroom might not necessarily understand what goes on at the front
day in
line.
life. Yeah.
It's for you to really feed that back up and go, well, we have this problem. If we introduce this tool, it could help solve this problem for multiple people.
Interesting. Do you feel, I feel like maybe you were lucky to be able to get out on the front line. Do you think that was one of the most important things? It's like I needed to articulate a day in the life of the core audience that this is for.
Yeah, and I think that's imperative, because put yourself in the shoes of the person or the people that you're trying to introduce this app for, because ultimately, like I said, it wasn't an app for me, although I loved it and I still love it to this day. It wasn't built for me. It was built for Joe Bloggs, who's driving his bus at 2:00 in the morning.
Harry with the ukulele.
Harry with his ukulele.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to track Harry down. I feel like he's famous now. Harry for the next webinar. Okay, cool. Ricky, I want to know about some mistakes. Like, what are the common mistakes, hurdles, tripwires that internal comms teams are making when they're trying to prove ROI? And Jess, the last comment you made in the chat here, like you're trying to build this business case, like maybe what are some of the common mistakes that we might be making when we're going into that situation?
I think it's always remembering the outputs versus the outcomes. So, measuring the number of newsletters sent is great, but is that really something that you can put into a business case? But if you could say, by introducing this near miss reporting form, we can increase our safety reduction. So it's making sure that your outputs versus outcomes, but also don't ignore the hard money. So, you've got all of those lovely soft pink fluffy things around the corner, around the edges, but actually look at the reduction in overtime, or look at the reduction in managers' time spent carrying out these tasks, and don't overlook those. Okay.
But I feel like you do need a bit of both, because this tool plays to the real cultural shift in how people can connect and feel like they belong as well. So it's like a difficult cocktail, isn't it, to get right?
It is. Yeah. But I think it's all back to that stakeholder involvement. If you understand what everybody needs, and sometimes it's safety in numbers as well. The more people you've got behind, and always bring people along on that journey with you, because it makes it easier for you to sell it up the chain if you've got a number of you.
Yeah, I've done some canvassing before you're going into your and going back to the days when you didn't have an internet, you didn't have Blink. Shame on you. I'm kidding. What did you underestimate early on when you're approaching this project and trying to build a business case? What did you totally underestimate?
I think how, certainly from a Blink perspective, how that could be the front door to absolutely everything. I think, certainly when I look at it from a Stagecoach perspective, we were looking to replace our intranet with basically another communications platform. And I think we overlooked the fact that this could become the one-stop shop for absolutely everything. And certainly when COVID hit, it became our one-stop shop for payslips, because we had to overnight shut down our shared service center and become digital. So it was really, those are the sorts of things that when we're doing the proof of concept, you don't really think of things like that, because you just think, I want people to use this because we've got critical information and communications that we need to get out to our frontline employees. Right.
So it's building that early on into your business case and your proof of concept.
Yeah. I think it's thinking of what's my phase one and what does that look like? And it might be, I just want a comms tool for phase one, but it's then thinking of your phase two. How can I integrate this with single sign-ons, electronic pay slips, out into my rewards gateway platform, where I can get rewards. It's all of those other things that perhaps are not known, but again, you'll get from your stakeholder interviews.
Yeah, and I think, how did you know that you needed to, sorry, this is a random question I just thought of, but I'm thinking when, you're in the thick of it, and especially if you're just in internal comms, you're not sitting or necessarily touching ops and maybe you don't know the intricate details around pay slips, for example. And that's a very unique one. If you have digital pay slips, great. If not, this could be a game changer. So it's like, how did you start to see those bigger pictures? How are you starting to think, oh, do you know what? That could be a good nugget. That could be a good nugget. Is it that you started canvassing different stakeholders and trying to learn what their pain points were? How are you actually sort of building this picture?
It's probably more a reflection on myself that I'm a very curious person, as you've probably worked out in my 5 months here. And I'll go and ask questions, or I'll listen around in what's going on in the office, and someone will go, oh, we're going to launch a new newsletter. Has anyone got a number for printers? And I'm like, hang on a minute, why are we printing things when we've got Blink? So I think it's trying to be, time permitting, as involved in as many conversations as possible. But it's then, again, it's creating that buzz of, here is the platform, here's what it's capable of, and enabling people to come to you with that question as well.
God, it's not a small feat, is it, as an internal comms professional? Be everywhere, be everything, get everything done. Amazing. And I want to know, has anybody else got some horror stories, some obvious hurdles that you fell over when you've been through process like this, whether it's trying to build business cases, get budget sign off? Let me know any horror stories. So Ricky, another question, seeing as we're in the horror story department of the session, is what felt really logical at the time and you were like, yes, and then just sort of fell apart and you were like, what was I thinking? And you can say nothing, I'm perfect, if that is legitimately the answer.
No, I think there's not anything that I can think that actually fell apart. I think it was just underestimating the speed at which people wanted the platform, because we created such a buzz about it that it was making sure that the project team internally could expedite what we were trying to do and get almost the minimum viable product on, so that people could start using it, and then you create the excitement and get people into it.
Okay. And you almost oversold yourself then. So
absolutely. Not only one Ricky to go around.
Okay, exactly. Yeah. I'm very guilty for that. When you launch something and you're like, well, hey, and they're like, where's XYZ? I'm like, hang on a second. I know this is really good, but wait. No, that's a good one. And talking back on business cases you built, whether that's for a Workday, whether that's for Blink, what are some horror stories? Have you got any that you know are safe to share? And we did say this is a safe space. Yeah.
One horror story, and the company and person will remain anonymous. However, we were going through a business case to justify some enhancements to certain platform that we were doing at the time, and the challenge from the CFO at the time was, rather than introduce this or make these enhancements, can we go and look at buying a system that does all of these individual processes, track the time it would take to do all of those processes to justify the cost it would take to introduce one system.
What? And
yeah,
is that what you said?
Well, it was almost a kind of a head in hands moment.
Hang on.
What did they just ask there?
Off the floor.
We ultimately didn't go down that track. There was a sensible offline conversation that was had with that CFO, but I just think they were trying to justify the cost involved in just doing it once, and we were trying to go as a standardized, streamlined approach, but actually introducing lots of mini systems didn't really go with that.
And you're like, let me start again.
Yeah.
Deep breath, everybody. Yes. Deep breath. Ricky, I'm just going to dive into the questions because I've seen quite a few come over, and thank you everybody so much for sending your questions over. If you haven't seen the Q&A box, head on over there and submit your questions, and thank you. First question I've got here is from Anonymous. Thank you, Anonymous, for sending in your question. My team is trying to increase employee leadership advocacy, and it's not working well. There's not enough engagement, and leaders rely on us to impersonate their profiles. How can we improve this strategy? Have you got some thoughts?
I see there that they want them to impersonate their profiles. I'm never a fan of that. Personally, I spent time with the CEO at Stagecoach when he was there up in his office in Scotland, showing him how to use Blink physically on a mobile phone, sitting on his lovely tartan chair, showing him how to use it. I think there's such huge power in leadership being visible and utilizing Blink.
Yeah, authentically.
Absolutely. And it's probably, again, it's back to that stakeholder interview. What's stopping them from using it? Is it the fear of, I'm going to be talking to hundreds of people every day, because you don't have to do that. So I think it's actually having some time with them and going, what's your fear? What's your hesitancy in actually doing it yourself?
Yeah, good point. I think it's working back from why are we not getting that? Interesting. I don't think, the impersonator or the ghostwriter isn't always a bad thing.
No.
Especially if there's like an official communication that needs to come out and, you maybe want more editorial control over that. But I do think when you have a platform like Blink or similar, you want leaders, and it's so important for leaders to be involved, to show up authentically. It makes such a difference. Yep. Our CEO, Sean, is often posting stories, so similar to Instagram when he's like out on the road. They go down really well and they're only live on the platform for, 48 hours. And it's a really low touch, low barrier to entry way for a leader just to say, hi guys. He's like, I'm in Nashville today visiting this customer and I'm up to this and da da da. So I think it's, as Ricky said, getting to that pain point, why, what's stopping them, and maybe working back from there as a very low barrier to entry, and maybe then build them up to maybe doing a live stream or something. But I definitely feel your pain. If you don't have leaders that are naturally forthcoming in that, then that definitely is difficult. Another question from Anonymous. How can we prove ROI in internal communications outside of email open rates or intranet story views, etc.? Ricky, back to some of your sexy metrics.
Yeah, I think it's quite a lot of the things that I've already said. It's making sure that it's not about those, and it's about any efficiencies that can be made of printing costs, pay slips, near miss reporting, any kind of forms that are filled out today that require that manual intervention. Is there anything for that? But I think one of the things that I haven't touched on yet is don't underestimate the onboarding journey of a new colleague as well. So the opportunity, certainly with a platform like Blink, is to onboard new starters before they've even joined the company. So don't underestimate those sorts of things as well.
Yeah, and Ricky, that bleeds quite nicely into this other question, which is, I'm all for proving ROI in internal comms, but how can we make sure communications don't become the answer for everything? I hear you, sister. For example, communications alone can't prove turnover rates are decreasing or people are feeling good about the firm, etc. Business decisions typically dictate comms. But just as that example you gave, think about the day in the life of the employee. What are all those touch points? How do we make that an amazing experience? A lot of that doesn't go down to communications. That is down to that experience. How are you doing? How are you making those things easy? How are you clocking on for a shift? Is that 2 different systems? Do you have to remember your password every time? How are you welcomed into the organization, etc., etc.?
Yeah, because that will stick with you. Your onboarding experience will absolutely stick with you.
Yeah.
And it's taking out those mundane day-to-day tasks.
Definitely. Super. I'm just going back to the chat. So, Ricky, I wanted to finish the session, or finish your bit of the session. We've got loads more panel questions to get through. Don't worry, everybody. With some key takeaways. So pen and paper, Notion AI, however you guys are all taking notes today. We've asked Ricky to come away with, or to deliver some real tangible things that you can write down and take away that are hopefully very valuable today. So Ricky, if you were building your business case today, what would you do differently?
I would absolutely have a layered approach. So similar to what I've already mentioned with the phase 1 and the phase 2, look at your tactical savings. So what's my printing cost? What are my onboarding costs? But also, is there anything strategically that's going on at the business at the same time? So have you got an employee engagement survey that might be launching in August, September time? And actually that could become a phase 2 depending on when you're launching, because you can utilize Blink or another platform to serve that to your population of people. But then also stakeholder alignment. I really can't stress that enough, how key it is to get the right people in the room at the time, knowing what they want as the proof in that business
what
case.
They care about.
What matters to them.
And I mean, I would love to know how is everyone else feeling about this? Do you go into these rooms and you think, oh, I wish I'd done this differently, or this was such an obvious missed opportunity? Please share in the chat, because I'm sure, like we said, sharing's for caring, and we listen and we don't judge. Super. So Ricky, another key takeaway I'd like to know is, what would you measure earlier or more consistently? And there's been quite a lot of questions specifically about email, newsletter, open rates, etc. So what would you measure earlier on and keep consistent throughout when you've bought a platform?
I think absolutely making sure that you've got your baselines, because otherwise you can't prove anything if you don't have your starting point. Very early on in our Blink journey at Stagecoach, we were measuring adoption rates at each of the locations and having kind of a league table. I remember I was doing an Excel document at the time, shows you how long ago it was. An Excel document kind of playing off each depot from each other to try and just get the adoption on.
Right.
But then it's making sure that you're looking at, I use my survey example again. What's your current survey response rates? because once you know what it is today, there's the opportunity to then increase that and enhance that by using a platform like Blink. But then it's your cost of inaction as well. So track that hidden waste. So your electricity costs, your paper costs, all of those things that you just kind of take for granted, that's coming out of someone's budget line today anyway. So make sure you're tracking that as well and measuring that, because there are efficiencies.
Yeah, that's a real good one. What are we doing? What's costing us not acting on this, right? Doing nothing.
Yep.
And in terms of that consistency piece, is that something that you're thinking, obviously you've set your baseline, but is there something you think you have to have this from day one?
I think turnover is a big one, and appreciate the previous comment of comms alone can't do it, but it's a part of the puzzle. If you think of my drawing earlier, all of those individual concepts, there we are, look, all those departments all play a key role in that employee turnover.
And articulating that as well, so it doesn't just fall on comms to be able to either document that, but and care about that as well.
Yes.
And what conversations would you have with leadership before choosing or before rollout?
What does good look like for you? What does value look like for you? Again, so it's about that bringing them on the journey. But again, it's making sure that you're that conduit between the front line and those executives or those people in the boardroom, because whilst they are steering the strategic direction of the organisation, they might not know what's actually going on in the depots.
And I think it's difficult, because if you say, what does good look like for you? And it's like, well, maybe they don't know or they don't care enough. So then you're having to go back again, aren't you, to try and think, what does this person care about? And then you're sort of, second guessing. And it's almost like getting those people in the room before you even start this conversation as a preamble, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's part of the campaign.
Yes.
Yeah.
And potentially wider teams.
Yes, true. Exactly. And I think doing the day in the life preamble to that is super powerful as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Right. I'm diving back into the Q&A. Thank you again, everybody, for submitting questions. And you've been voting up questions as well. So let's see who's most popular. I've got here from Anonymous. Everyone feeling shy today, but Anonymous, thank you for setting in your question. Ricky, how do you calculate the more impactful metrics to leadership, like reduction in time spent by managers? Because that is a really good one. I feel like people would really like to see that. So what other IC metrics can we transform into dollars to show ROI and how it impacts our bottom line? So have you got some more examples what those could look like?
Absolutely. So one of my other roles at Stagecoach, I was a business analyst as well. So we would do time and motion studies.
What haven't you done, Ricky?
Not a lot. No, I was going to try and think then, but not a lot. So we would do time and motion studies. So we would literally, when we were introducing the Workday platform, we would literally track a document through its entire journey. And we would go, okay, here is a new starter form that's been completed by Harry. Where does that go? And we would find that Harry spends 30 minutes filling it out. It then gets scanned in. So someone would take 10 minutes to scan that in. So it really is following it all the way through. And this would end up touching about 10 different people, because it'd be scanned in. It'd go to the payroll team, or it'd go to his administration clerk, who would send it to the payroll team, who'd rekey it into another system, who'd then take that document and file it. And it's breaking it all down and thinking, where does this document go on its journey?
Gosh, that's a really good one. And I think sometimes you think, scanning takes X amount of time. It's like, no, it's not someone's top priority. So it actually doesn't take 10 minutes. It takes 2 hours.
Yeah. And if you think of that, that's just Harry in his example, depending on how many people you're hiring, which again is back to your turnover and your attrition rates. If you reduce that, you've got less of those actually happening.
And hopefully then a better experience, because that's streamlined as well. Good question. Thank you. Another question from Michael. Hi, Michael. Thank you for your question. Besides email open rates, what other metrics have you found valuable to present to leaders? Other than just this being an email or a memo, have you presented effective change management from internal comms?
I think the effective change management is all in the adoption rates and introducing and showcasing that by us introducing Blink at these organisations, actually it's increased the usage of their single sign-ons. So we've driven more traffic, and the only place that you can get to your scheduling system, for example, is by utilising Blink. So I think it's showcasing those sorts of figures and really showing them that their investment has come back to fruition. And it's then, again, you've done phase 1, phase 2, but what is then your ongoing roadmap as well, because the world is your oyster with what you want to bring into it.
And I feel like Stagecoach and Ariba did do that really well, didn't they? Because they did switch off access to other systems. So Blink very much became like the one digital front door for everyone. So naturally that investment was maximised.
Yes.
Amazing. Shout out Stagecoach and Ariba. And I've got a question from Sarah. Sarah, thank you for your question. How do you get people who have content or information to share to post it on a dedicated tool which we can measure versus email, which you know and use every day but does not have metrics? Great question.
Great question. You're never going to stop people using emails. Emails is always going to serve its purpose.
Boo.
Boo, indeed. But I think what you can show is that actually in Blink, for example, it's much more engaging. So you can add that video content, you can live stream, you can have pictures, you can add stories. So it's making it's almost, it's the change methodology again, isn't it? It's getting people to adapt and adopt to the change and
that's the
utilising
behavioural change.
Yes.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not going to be an overnight thing. It'll be a gradual shift. But also part of it is turning off where people go for things as well. So if, for example, you would send a regular Friday roundup email, actually over time you'd go, I'm not going to send this anymore. If you want to find it, you'd go to Blink to find that information.
Yeah, nice. And I think it might have been actually a Riva. It was definitely a transit customer that had an example of, we keep sending an email newsletter. I just don't know if this is successful, but we've always done it and it's where all the news goes. And they were actually finding that a lot of sort of frontline managers, depot managers, none of their teams were reading the newsletter, but what one manager had decided to do was post a story on Blink of himself reading the news and saying, right, everybody, I'm digesting the newsletter. Okay. Oh, right. That's not important. Oh, right. That is. And it was just such a lovely human way. And obviously that story just went to his team would watch it, and it's like, actually, is there a better way to send out this information to managers for them? Then how could they disseminate this through video, through different mediums as well? Sarah, hopefully that's given you some ideas for your question as well. Another question in. Hi, thank you so much for your question. What advice would you give someone new into internal communications at a company where it has not been a priority? Great question. How can I make an early impact and demonstrate the ROI of stronger internal comms?
Good question. Come and speak to us at Blink.
This is our favourite question.
Yeah, come and speak to us because we can show you. I think it is. Appreciate you're new. Go and ask questions. What's been tried before? Has anyone thought of it before? Understand what the strategic priorities are for that organisation, because hopefully you've got some people priorities and you can leverage the benefits of Blink or another internal comms platform to help drive those strategic priorities.
And all your leaders will have a vision of what they want good to look like. And I think it's, like you said, asking those questions, be curious to then suss out your picture rather than painting your own picture and trying to slot that in with those. But be curious, speak to your leaders. What's your vision of what great looks like? And I think work back from there.
Yeah. And don't take no for an answer. That's what I always.
That's a good one as well. Yeah. And if you have Barry playing the ukulele, then even better. Yeah. No, but seriously, I do hear you. I think it is difficult, especially when an organisation hasn't seen somebody in the role before, right? And a great way to start is being curious rather than just coming in and saying, right, I think we should do X, Y, Z. Definitely. Okay, I'm going to answer one more question, everybody, and then we're going to have to wrap this fabulous session. Let's have a look. What question haven't we answered? Here we go. Itzel, I really hope I've said your name correctly. Thank you so much for your question, which is there a structured qualitative method to evaluate internal comms campaigns that you recommend?
Very good question. I think if I think about the Blink product itself, with any campaigns that you're looking to do, there's always analytics that you can drive, and we have it out of the box here at Blink. So you can get all of your reach and how many people opened it and what time did they open it. I love all of that sort of stuff, and I know most of my customers love it as well. There's one that I can think of in particular who is really, really keen to see, why did this post outperform another post? Yes,
that's a good one. And for me as well, I think is, what are you trying to achieve with that campaign? And again, working back from there, has that behaviour happened or has that change happened as a result? But I do think the methodology can be applied differently depending on your channel. But like we said at Blink, we I mean, our customers run some fabulous, crazy, unique campaigns, and all for different use cases. Sometimes it might be a product that's being recalled on the front line. Sometimes it's an awareness month, and less so a methodology, but more like, what am I trying to achieve? Is it that I want more employees to generate their own content as part of this campaign and get more involved? Is it that I want an actual action to happen? So I think it's thinking, what is that like ultimate goal from this comms campaign? And again, working back from there. Hopefully that's helped. Super. I am going to officially wrap. Not actually, don't worry. Can you imagine? So that is the end of the session. I can't rap. Super. Ricky, thank you so much. I really hope everyone has enjoyed. Ricky, who's come to the other side from always being customer side to now officially working at Blink. We absolutely love having him, but I think it's been great just to hear from him, his voice, what he's been through. Like I said, what hasn't he done? It's been a really, really great session. Ricky, is there any other final golden nugget that you'd like to share with everybody today?
Be the change maker.
So inspirational. Be the change maker.
Be the change maker.
The Barry with the ukulele.
Yes.
Metaphorically speaking. Amazing. We've got a poll. I'd love to know how you found today's session. I'm really sorry about the audio problems at the start, but I'm glad we got over that. And we are always going live. You can't miss us, hopefully. So we've got another session coming up very soon in a couple of weeks. If you don't have email for your frontline, for employee group, no problem. No email, no problem. We are all over this, something we're absolutely obsessed with. So we'd love to see you on this session if you'd like to join us. And my last forced fun question is that we have a playlist, because working in internal comms is not easy. And we've only just tackled today one little element of working in internal comms. So we're building a playlist on Spotify. I would love anybody today to add a track to the playlist. But Ricky, as one of our speakers, what track would you like to add to our survival playlist?
I will add Michael Jackson, You Are Not Alone.
Oh, you are not alone. Amazing. So good. Ricky, thank you. We'll get that on the playlist. Everybody tune in. But thank you so much. Really, really lovely to see you all today.